Chair, would you like to take care of this meeting, or would you like me to do it? You want to do it? Okay.
Oh, look at that. Look at that. How are you? Give me a minute to catch my breath because I asked Mark to come. Okay. Have an extra pen? Okay. I want to do the. Is that okay? Or would you rather that I do the business first? Okay, all right. I'll do the business first. All right, the Affordable Housing Committee meeting will now come to order. We have only 2 items before us. Before we get started, Ms. Hannah, can you help us check that we have a quorum? If you can take attendance, please. You are. There you go.
Councilmember Allen, Hauser, Mendez, Parker, Sepulveda, Sledge, Suara,
Here.
Taylor, Toombs, Welch. You have a quorum.
All right, thank you. My preference was to start with the biggest issue facing us recently, which is the evictions. You all know that the moratorium just ended. And so I've asked Mark to come and address us. But before we go into all of that, we have 2 items of business, and we'll quickly take care of that. And then we want to talk about the evictions and some of the things that is happening and what we are doing or about to do about it. So the first item on the agenda is a resolution IRS 2021-1065, Suara, Toombs, Sledge, and Allen approves amendments to 5 grant contracts for constructing affordable housing approved by IRS 2019-1861 between the Metro Housing Trust Fund Commission and certain nonprofit organizations. Do you have a motion? Thank you. Second? All right, it's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? I believe we have Miss Ashley Brown and yes, here, but I don't know if anybody have any question. This is an extension of the current agreement that we have, extending from 2 years to 3 years to enable them to be able to finish due to some delays. So do you guys have question for them? Do you, any discussion, any question? All right, hearing none. All those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. Thank you. Opposed? Any abstention? All right, you recommend approval. Thank you. The second item is a late resolution by Rosenberg, a resolution approving a total of $850,000 from the General Fund of the General Services District for a grant to Community Care Fellowship and authorizing a grant agreement. Do I have a motion? Second? All right. Any discussion? All right, is Councilmember Rosenberg here? Is not. I believe Ms. Tackett. I wanted them to, yes, Ms. Judy, if you just say something and then we can take questions.
Yeah, it's public people. Yep.
Okay, good evening, Judy Tackett with the Homeless Impact Division. Thanks for having me. So the Mobile Housing Navigation Center is what we're calling this concept, is really one option to look at how we work with people that are in encampments, getting small groups of people out of encampments into safe settings. We're looking at church buildings and working with congregations on that. It's taking about 20 people into a space and then working very intensely with them on housing and housing navigation. The goal is to get people housed within 90 days. We do that as part of our overall big housing plan. That is our goal as a community, to get to that 90 days, getting people into housing. What is really nice about this concept, and we tried to pilot it, we piloted this during COVID with motel rooms. Motel rooms are, as you know, not feasible from a cost perspective and sustainable. What the mobile piece is of this housing navigation center is that this is looking at trying to rotate from different churches and having several going at the same time. We're trying to start with 2 locations at the beginning, possibly 3, doing it citywide. And that's kind of really getting numbers down, being housing-oriented with a data-driven approach.
Thank you, Ms. Tackett. Councilmember Mendez.
Thanks. So first, is this going to be discussed at Budget and Finance?
I think so. Yes, you would.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. Since I don't see anybody from Finance here, that's really the questions I have, so I guess I'll wait till Budget and Finance.
All right. Councilmember Toombs.
Thank you, Chair. In reading the grant agreement for this program, it says that it's going to launch with the Brookmead camp. And my question is, how was that one chosen? There are several encampments throughout the county. And I know a lot of council members, including myself, have reached out for assistance for the homeless that are in our area. So how was this one chosen, and how are you going to address the other encampments that are in the county?
This one was chosen. So a few weeks ago, we have brought several metro departments together. We have really looking at the size of encampments and what is happening in encampments. I have worked with the health department from a health perspective. So this encampment has been increasing tremendously over the last few months to a really alarming size and as quickly. So one of the things we want to do is really pilot this effort. But this is not the only location we're looking at. We're also looking at other locations simultaneously, so that it would be ideally cover the entire Davidson County area eventually. We're not going to have a lot of them going at the same time, as I said, 2 or 3, but ideally if we can work with churches, it will cover different areas, and that's what we're focused on.
Any other questions?
So do you know what those different areas will be? And I ask because the Brookmead camp is specifically named, and the grant agreement says there will be 2 or 3 other locations. I know there are way more than 2 or 3 other encampments. So do you have specific ideas on where you'll move next once you put this, I guess, pilot into place?
Yes, one is Madison area. So we're really looking at the geographic area. So rather than thinking of this as just Brookmead, it will look at that encampment to start with, but will be West Nashville area. Then Madison is the next one we're looking at, because we do have a church there that is willing to participate in this. And then another location we're also looking at is South Nashville, or talking about that.
Thank you. Councilmember Hauser. Let me see. Councilmember Hauser.
Yes, the couple questions I have, the $850,000, is that to pay for the purchase of the mobile unit and the staff time, or is that reimbursing the churches for housing? Or can you just give us a little bit of enlightenment of how that's going to be used, and if this is going to be a one-time shot, or if it's going to be continued, or what?
Mm-hmm. So we're looking at a 2-year budget. I also wanted to quickly introduce Ryan Lesueur with Community Care Fellowship, who is helping with the pilot. So it's really for staffing, intensive housing services, a rent to the church while we're there. It's not, and initial equipment to like mats, beds, all that equipment, food. But it's really more housing focused, what we need to do for that, for getting people into housing and linking people to also existing services that we're already having. So it's not as much brick and mortar as more as the services that need to happen.
So this does not include the van or Metro staff people. It's more providing the resources for, to be able to provide the housing.
Yes, so the reason it's called Mobile Housing Navigation Center is because it's moving around. It's not a van or
So
anything.
it's not,
No,
when you said mobile, I
yes,
pictured a
yes.
van pulling up. Okay.
It was very important that we are not just opening a church for a shelter location. It's really that mobility. It's really moving people through to housing aspect and focus. That's why we use that term.
Great. Thanks for that clarification.
Thank you. Councilmember Porterfield.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for being here today and all the work that you do. Do you have any information about the size of that particular encampment to juxtapose the size of some of the other encampments across the city?
Yes, this is the second largest encampment. It's right now at about 80, around 80 people. So others are usually, in general, I looked at it, 7, 8, it changes. That's why I'm always reluctant. But most are really small. But there are a handful, like under 10, that are 20, around that. And then there's one that's larger than this one. I do not have a census on that. It's where Wharf Park, that area at Antis Drive, that's the biggest one. Off Hermitage, Antis Drive, here near downtown, that's the largest one right now.
So was there any reason why the largest one was not chosen to be the first pilot?
One of the things, it's really the health aspect of it. So it's what we also do is we are forming, have already formed small groups around the largest encampments, like the providers are having quick checking calls once a week, who's working on what's going on, and really identifying people by name and who's working with whom. So because we initially found in these large encampments, you're going to have a lot of services, but when they're not coordinated, nothing really happens. So that's happening at both those encampments. It just feels with the urgency and the health aspects, that one was more urgent. Yeah.
Thank you. And then my last question is, what can we do to help support so that you all can help service the encampments like across the city? Like, is it just more funding that's needed to make sure that, everyone across the city are kind of getting similar services?
One of the things I actually need to get better, and I'm starting this month to give you regular updates to the council on where we are. Here's the overall housing plan. Here's the resources that we have right now. What I need is, right now we have these federal dollars that came in, and all of a sudden plans come together when you have dollars. I can have the best plan and it's not going to go anywhere. Now, we are at that point where we actually start to see those solid plans. Now I need to really put, here's what we're spending the money on, here's where the gaps are, and then have the gaps conversation. With the American Rescue Plan, there are some more dollars coming in, but all these dollars at one point end, and that's where I need to have the education with everybody in the community now. I know everybody has been asking me for this for a long time, but if there's no funding, it's really not realistic. I can throw out any number. So I think we're at that point right now where we really can put some real plans together.
Thank you. And again, thank you for what you do.
Thank you.
All right. Okay. Councilmember Hurt. Let me see. Give me 1 second. Yes, ma'am. Councilmember Hurt.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. I don't have a question, but I just want to make it known that we've heard from some of the residents who did not feel like they were actually heard the other night at the meeting. And I do know that there are several nonprofit organizations out there that provide support and resources for the population. But I also just wanted to be said that we do care about the residents and the concerns that they have and want to make sure that they know that their voices are heard. I personally think that if we're going to build and have parks, we need to make sure that we maintain them and keep them as beautiful greenways and parks. And especially if we're celebrating brand new ones, I don't know how we can do brand new ones when we don't take care of the ones that we already have. So as far as I'm concerned, I think that we have quite a bit of work that we need to do, and just wanted to make it known that we do need to make sure that we look for something and maybe take some baby steps that will actively address both the residents' concern as well as the community of homelessness.
Thank you. Councilmember Allen.
Thank you, Madam Chair. If I ask one more question, Ms. Taggett, I'd be interested to know if another thing we can do perhaps is help recruit churches, and if you can speak a little bit about what the expectations of those churches are.
Yes. So yes, to help recruit churches. What we are trying to do is offer 24/7 very temporary 90-day shelter. So if there is a space where church can help set that up, we are partnering with a nonprofit community care fellowship to provide the staffing, to really do all the work. We are also, what a church would need to have is safe distancing space. We're still in COVID. I just really want to point that out. A showers, some kind of kitchen, that type of facility.
Councilmember Taylor, I'm looking for you here. Give me 1 second. I can't see.
Second, top.
There he is. All right. All right, Councilmember Taylor.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. Is there a possible way that we can look at adding more information to this resolution at a later date to secure what the plan is moving forward? We have multiple encampments throughout the city of Nashville and multiple concerns and responses and correspondences from many of our constituents throughout the entire city. And as we move forward and as we start to plan, I would like to see maybe flush this out just a bit more before we make a final decision this week in this council meeting as to what the plan will be moving forward for other locations throughout the city.
Is that because I do want to say that one of the reasons why this was late filed is the urgency with the homelessness and the fact that we know that people will be, hopefully we don't get a whole lot more increase with these evictions coming up. And so that's one of the reasons why the administration decided that this should be late filed and not wait until the CARES Act committee started looking into appropriations. So, but I will let them speak into, I don't know, Councilmember Taylor, what you're suggesting. Are you saying go ahead with this one, but bring more information later? Or are you saying let's hold off? I wasn't sure what you were asking.
To the moment, I will be clear, I'm not asking for a deferral, but I'm thinking about asking for a deferral to flesh this out a bit more, to add more information into this. Like I said, we have the Brookmead name, and then we say maybe this one or maybe that one. As constituents are thinking through homelessness and this area of homelessness that we have and the issue that we have with people remaining in housing and finding stability in housing, could we look at how we could increase this plan in other encampments to help other folks as well immediately with this $850,000?
Ms. Tackett, if you would speak to, I know that just like it's been said, Brookmead has been named, but it says 2 or 3 other locations. Do you have those in mind? Do you know how soon those will start? If you can speak to the urgency of the need across the city.
Yes, so Madison, are we ready, did I say? Okay. City Road Chapel is on board with doing it there. And so one of the things we just talked about is looking in the South Nashville area, because there is always, when there's flooding going on, there's this one encampment there where a lot of people always congregate to really look at where some of these health issues are, and where we really need to have some solutions to get people out of into safe environments. So those are the starting places. We are looking for suggestions, as Councilmember Berkeley Allen. I really love that direction, so please let us know for suggestions. The churches that we're starting with at this point are willing to look at a little bit longer than 90 days. That gives us some time to get up. The urgency is also, this is really a health issue. As we see COVID kind of going back into another phase, we really want to get people out of encampments, looking how we take this approach, housing-focused approach, and really utilize the current resources that we have to get people into housing quicker. And I really believe this concept and the way we piloted it last year has shown that it speeds up the housing process.
We're looking into some sidebar to resolve some question here. In the meantime, Councilmember Hauser.
You have mentioned 20 as a number, and I'm just trying to say, so are each of the churches that are volunteering to participate saying that they will take 20 individuals? Okay, and so how long have they committed to that? Is it like 20 individuals for 30 days or 60 days, or do we have that defined?
That is, our goal is the 90 days, but they're committed to until they're in housing. So if it's quicker, which we hope, they would actually take more. You know, once, let's put it that way, we're looking at, let's say if we start with 20 people and all of it, within 30 days house 10, then let's get another 10 in there. So that's how we're working with.
So it's 20 at a time,
yes.
Not 20 total?
Yes.
Okay. And then,
yes. It's to keep, the goal is to keep the group small and the people small, so they're really in the housing focus and get to focus on themselves and their needs and their housing planning. And I think that's the key, to offer that alternative to any bigger shelter, because we do have big shelters in town and people are not going there. So let's look at this option.
And so would those 20 people be housed on the church's property or something that they had access to, or has that been defined?
It would be church's property, would be a church facility. That's really what we're asking from churches. It's like that facility, that space to work with us with.
Well, they already have in place the showers, et
yes.
cetera. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. And the concept to move it's like this group of people, once they're in housing in 90 days, and if we then open up another church somewhere, this church can get a break, and maybe after 90 days, the other gets a break, and then it comes back here. This is also that we're not establishing one shelter in one neighborhood. We don't want to do that either. It's really this center of moving.
It's a huge commitment. I know when I was in Chattanooga, our church took folks in for a week at a time, like every couple, and that was huge. So 90 continuous days is a very huge commitment, and we really thank you for being willing to step up. Thank you.
That seems like that's what he's saying, but right, that's correct.
All right. I think we have a conversation on Councilmember Taylor.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Ms. Tackett. So I think this is a need to appropriate these funds. I don't want to slow the funds down. We know that once they're appropriated, it still will take some time to move over to social services. But I do want to make sure that we highlight that This isn't the only need in the city of Nashville when it comes to homelessness. There's a great need in the city of Nashville. There's a great need in South Nashville, East Nashville, West Nashville, North Nashville, specific. I mean, there's everywhere. Each one of us, I'm sure we're getting calls from our constituents in regards to individuals experiencing homelessness, right? And so by highlighting just one entity that will receive appropriations may not go over well with all constituents of the city of Nashville. Therefore, I think if we can ask the administration for an additional appropriation or to add a late filed amendment to highlight areas that have been named for tomorrow with City Road Chapel in Madison, and if you can find a partner in South Nashville to highlight them by name and the areas by name in this appropriation, I think it's helpful. And then also moving forward to highlight a second appropriation to help with some other areas. That's the question that I have. Is that possible? And if the administration is here that can answer that as well, I'd love to hear from you all as well. Thank you.
What's Mr. Jameson's table?
Admin table.
Mr. Jameson.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Councilman Taylor. He's absolutely correct. The urgency of this appropriation is not lost on council members. We're grateful that he elects not to defer, but instead we can commit to a second appropriation through ARP in September to address these other very well-deserving areas as well.
Councilmember Mendez.
I was going to skip the money stuff until budget and finance, but I mean, respectfully, that's not right. The mayor's office cannot commit to spending ARP money in any way, shape, or form. So what I was going to ask when finance was here, but now they're here, is just to make sure we all know what we're doing here. So as I understand, the resolution refers to fund number 30112, and that I wanted to confirm with finance is the fund that got created with the savings from CARES Act money, operating budget savings from the CARES Act money. Is that right?
Thank you. Yes, that is correct. So just a quick refresher, the last spend of the Coronavirus Relief Fund from the CARES Act was for public safety salaries in order to create the savings, to create the reserve, which would extend the use of the funds, because at the time that council did that on December 15th, the feds had not yet extended use of the funds.
And so, thank you. What I was going to ask for in budget and finance is for a recap of how much of that reserve fund is left, because that goes to the question that Ms. Tackett raised about we're using federal money, and if this kind of work will continue after the federal money, we'll need to know. And the other point that my colleagues are making about there's other work to do with other encampments. So how much is left of that CARES Act money?
So the original amount funded for the city's emergency response was $20 million, and at June 30th, there's roughly $3.5 million that's still available.
And so this will be $850,000 of roughly $3.5 million. So we're down to the last couple million of that reserve fund created by the savings from CARES Act. Okay. And there's no other money in this fund 30112 other than the savings created from the CARES Act spending?
That's correct.
All right. Well, that's what I was going to ask, just to clarify and make sure I understood it, is from the technical, what are we spending here? And I guess, colleagues, that would explain why Mr. Jameson said the proposal would be to spend American Rescue Fund money next on other work. And like, listen, the use of the money is, like, we need to do it. You know, it's a good use, but we do need to keep our eye on. You know, it's not magic money we're spending beyond the budget. We're spending the savings from federal relief dollars, and any further spending is really one-time spending from federal relief dollars. It's not built into a budget. It couldn't be recurring. It's just one time, right?
Yes, the intention is that the American Rescue Plan funds would all be one-time spends.
All right, thanks a lot.
Thank you. And it's also good to note that when we set aside that money, one of the amendment that we had is that any leftover money should help address housing if there was anything left. And so this goes towards that. I think that's very important. That was the intent of the council at the time, that if we have any money left at the end of the day that we're setting aside, we made an amendment to add something to that. Okay, so I will allow two more, because I know that we need to go to budget now. It's 3 months. Now, this is on the budget agenda too, so hopefully we're getting it all in here. But I do have some more things I want to cover in affordable housing before we go to budget. So I'm going to have Councilmember Mendes, Porterfield, and Sepulveda.
And I guess the last thing about the idea of using American Rescue Plan money, we passed Councilmember Toombs legislation in April or May, I think, that set up a process to have a committee to make recommendations to the council. Their first meeting is going to be next Wednesday, I think. And so when we think about spending American Rescue Plan money on housing and homelessness issues, I think where we should direct ourselves is to the 3 members from our body that are members of that committee. That's Council Members Sepulveda, Gamble, and Johnston, because really that committee, I'm sure they're going to, like last time, consider recommendations from the administration, but it's really that committee that's deciding what to recommend to us to appropriate beyond that. Thank you.
Councilmember Porterfield.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I did have one more clarifying question. Are the individuals that are in encampments, are they going to be serviced within their community? So, for example, if this encampment is in Westmead, then they'll be housed at a church in West Nashville, and they'll be placed with housing in West Nashville as well?
That's what we are trying to look at. It's not always possible that way because we need to see where housing is, but ideal. That's what we try to work towards, where people are, where is their community, where is their support, and build up that support where they are for sustainability and being successful.
Has there been any thought on how, I know housing is more affordable in certain parts of the city, so has there been any conversation about a plan to make sure that there's no concentration of poverty, to make sure that, so if someone's in West Nashville and you can't find affordable housing in West Nashville, to keep them in their community, then what are the next steps?
And the best way to answer that from my perspective right now, because a lot of people will need housing subsidies, so that's a voucher program. So we're working very closely with MDHA. We're doing landlord searches and landlord engagement all over the city, trying to really look at having incentives. Mayor launched a public-private partnership for landlord risk mitigation fund. We're looking at adding some sign-up bonuses with that, and really to encourage landlords all over the city to work with us.
Councilmember Sepulveda.
Thank you, Chair. And thank you, Ms. Tackett, for being here. I just had a clarifying question. So when we're looking for housing, we're funneling everyone into our rapid rehousing, is that correct?
No, that's a portion of it, but it's really whatever works for the person. We really individualize the approach with people. So we as the Homeless Impact Division really work with nonprofits who help identify people, work with people. So somebody may get a housing voucher and not be in rapid rehousing. Somebody may be in rapid rehousing. It depends on their needs and their level of the intensity of services that they need at that time.
Thank you. And just to reiterate a little bit of what Councilmember Mendes said, our first ARP meeting is on the 11th at 3 p.m. in the chambers. Is that correct, Ms. Wiggins? So those are open to the public if anyone wants to come and sit in and taking the opportunity that Ms. Wiggins is here, if we could have Ms. Tackett come to one of the early meetings that we have scheduled, that would be great. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember. I did say you were going to be the last one, but I'll allow Councilmember Hauser, and I seek the indulgence of all of you in the chambers. I know we're running late on budget, but the issue of homelessness housing is one that is major and current, and I don't want to rush over it because it's just too important. I wish we were after budget, but hopefully all this conversation now on this issue will reduce the amount of time we will spend in budget discussing it. So, Councilmember Hauser.
I'm sorry. Yeah, the only last question I had is Metro's services to support the churches, such as, we're going to have very vulnerable people. Are the churches going to have Metro-provided security, or is there going to be a Metro-provided social worker on site, or what are we as Metro going to do to support the churches so that they want to continue doing this work?
There's security built into the staffing model that we RFP out, so it all goes all at once. So, but there is security personnel in that staffing model.
Thank you, Ms. Tackett. I appreciate it. Before we round up the affordable housing meeting, like I said in the beginning of the meeting, you all know that the moratorium ended on Saturday. I asked Ms. McCready from Metro Action Commission to give a very quick report on.
Yeah, you do have to vote on the item.
Oh yeah. See, we were so. You all took a long time. I forgot to vote. So on the late resolution, we're now ready to vote. All those in favor? Oppose? Any abstention? All right, you all recommend approval. Thank you for your patience. Appreciate it. So, Ms. McCready, if you would step to the podium and just give us a brief report on the housing money, ARA money, and where we are. Oh, it's Dr. Krum. Thank you for being here.
Hi, thank you for having me. Our dashboard went up at about 4 today. We're at about, $12,982,000 is where we are as of about 4 o'clock today. We anticipate that the remaining dollars probably by the end of August, beginning of September. It's a strong possibility that these dollars will be fully expended. As you know, we have additional dollars that will be coming before council. We're also in the process of finishing the negotiations with the state on the dollars that were given to them that are really for Davidson County. That should be approximately 24 million additional dollars that we're anticipating. I'm not sure what other information you would like to have, except that we have made a few additional changes. We've hired court housing navigators to join our courts team. We already have an existing courts team. Tomorrow's docket is pretty large. When we reviewed the docket, about 80% of the individuals on the docket do have HOPE applications. The majority of those applications have already been paid. So we expect a pretty good day in the courts tomorrow. Our team was still going through those applications. Many of our local advocacy groups have been doing an exceptional job as people are coming into the courts, making sure that they have an application in the HOPE system. I should also mention MDHA, who we met with again on last week, have begun to put their applicants in the portal as well. We have a separate arrangement with MDHA where we have purchased 10 licenses for the MDHA team. They will process their applications, and we will move their applications to payment. So that's where we are right now. If you have any specific questions, I'll be more than happy to answer them.
Not really, but I wanted you to come because I think it was very important for us to be able to let our residents know that there's still money available, and that the fact that the moratorium ended does not mean that help is ending, and that people need to continue to take advantage of them. I also think it's important for us to plead to landlords also to let them know that there's still money available up to 15 months between ERA 1 and ERA 2, and that if they can be patient and work with their tenants, that we will continue to work with them. The other thing that I wanted to make sure that we point out is that we want to appeal to the judges as well, to make sure they're referring people to the legacy court. I spoke with Judge Bell today. The program that she has is very unique, one that is, I think, the only one in the country. She's talking in the White House about it, about how we want to help people. So I don't want us to panic. I think we're at a panic stage. I'm not undermining it, but I think it's very important to hear from Mac that. And thank you all. I know that Mac, my understanding is that we're about 58%, while other cities are 20%. So you all are doing as much as you can, and we want to continue that. So it's important for me to talk about that and for people to know that there's still help out there. Please don't give up. Landlord, please don't evict. Try and work with your tenant as much as possible. Councilmember Allen.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I want to thank y'all for all the hard work y'all have done to accelerate the way you've been reaching tenants and coordinating with all of the complicated paperwork that they have to get in to get to that final line. Can you speak a little bit to the partner portal and any partnerships that y'all are now able to have with other nonprofits that may extend your reach even farther and faster?
So the RFP is actually on the street for nonprofits. We had our first meeting as a part of the purchasing process on last, I believe, Thursday, which was their opportunity to ask questions. The submission of those questions were due in writing today. We have to respond to their questions by the 5th. And then we're also anticipating closing on next week when their applications will be due. We expect to select about 10 nonprofits to work with us. There seemed to be quite a bit of interest from the meeting that we had with them on last week. So we are moving forward with that side of the partner portal. As you know, MDHA is the other side of the partner portal. We've asked them to go ahead and start getting their applications in so that when that section is ready, we can transfer their applications to them.
Thank you, and thank you to Mac, thank you to the courts, and thank you to all the non-for-profits that are helping out. So if there's no further, Councilmember Parker, I can't find you. There we go. Councilmember Parker.
Okay, thank you, Chair. And yeah, thank you all for all the work you've been doing around this. I was at court last week because a couple of my constituents were on the docket, and I saw your team there with the table doing the outreach and connecting people with the program. It's fantastic. One thing that a lot of people have asked me about is, can you remind us the process if a landlord is like non-responsive to the engagement with the program, or if they explicitly say, I don't want to be part of this. How is that handled? And if you could just let us know what folks can do if they find themselves in that situation.
Thank you for that question. We're required to give them 7 days, meaning the landlord, to respond. If they don't in that time, then we pay the tenant directly. So the tenant can be paid directly. They do sign an agreement that says that they're supposed to use this to cover the debt that they owe to the landlord, but that is the recourse that we have in this first pot of money. And the second part of money that we're anticipating, that is not a requirement that the landlord has to be engaged, even though we will try to engage them. We are allowed to pay the tenant directly without having to engage the landlord.
Excellent. Thank you for that.
Councilmember Hood.
Thank you, Madam Chair. That was actually going to be my question as well, and I would assume that also stands for MDHA as well, in terms of tenants who have to pay MDHA. In terms of you paying the tenant as opposed to MDHA?
We will initially pay MDHA. However, if MDHA refuses the money, which we have no indication that they're planning to do, then we will pay the tenant directly.
Reason why I was asking is because I know that there's someone that I've personally helped walk through the program probably since February, before this was actually and he still has not been paid, and nor has MDHA.
Well, we pulled all of MDHA's applications are in a hold pattern. So no one from MDHA, well, there are a few people that we did pay, is being paid initially. We're trying to process all of their applications together. So the young man that you're talking about, who I had the pleasure of also speaking with,
Yes, thank you.
he's fine. He's being processed along with the rest of MDHA's residents.
Okay, and I don't think that anyone has worked harder than Metro Action Commission to address this situation. And I do personally want to thank you all and Lisa and the whole team for going out and giving up your time for this. And I mean, they even making sure that they attend other meetings that relate to home and housing for other people. So I just want to thank you and your team.
All righty. The one last thing, I think everything that was on this note was covered by my colleague. I think the one last area that we're not sure of is on whether judges can require landlords to seek assistance before going after a tenant. And I was just asking Ms. Hannah here, that's for the courts to decide. But we're hoping that maybe our judges will do that out of their own volition. It's almost 5:20. Councilmember Sepulveda, this is the last one and I have to end it.
Sorry, Chair, I'll be quick. Thank you for all the work you do. I would just like to encourage y'all to, when you're reviewing the RFPs, to look at the diverse
we are.
nonprofits, because we've found in many situations where the landlords don't go through the court system and just evict people, and that's happening a lot in minority communities. So I just want to make sure that the people that don't go through the court system, that we get to them as well.
If I could just respond, that one of the ways that we felt we would address that is by not having you must have 3 years, 5 years, 10 years of experience in order to apply for these dollars. That was one of the ways that we were trying to make sure we were getting to nonprofits that might not have years of experience the way some of them have. Please, one more point of privilege, just to acknowledge PATH and the incredible work that they did in helping us at the Lexington Gardens facility, and just the work that they're doing to make sure people get into the HOPE system. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. With that, we're adjourned. Thank you.